Morning traders, welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMTrading. Today is September 15th, 2021, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the stock's trading lower, and we're going to discuss that but in just a second. But first, looking at the major economic events of the day, at 8 a.m. earlier this morning at GBP, we had a yearly CPI number coming out that beat its forecast. We're going to take a look at the British pound in just a second. And looking at the markets, first starting out with the Forex symbols, the Aussie Dollar is still showing and remaining weak while the British pound strengthens on this yearly CPI number. Now looking at the indices, the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq both showing weakness. And as we look at commodities, oil remains steady while gold unchanged. In terms of the stocks, Microsoft showing strength, but everything else is showing tremendous weakness. And lastly, looking at Bitcoin, trading slightly higher on its upper range. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we'll start here with the Aussie USD, just because it's not showing any strength here. Okay, at this last bounce, it bounced just mildly, but really back to its lows. As compared to the Euro USD, where we did get that bounce, we got a retracement, but not back to its lows. Now looking at the GBP USD, you could see right here it's firming up after selling off from 139 down to 138.25. That's a decent move, but a lot of volatility here, not much character. I mean, if you want to call it, it's just a mild upwards momentum, but nothing really to write home about in terms of any kind of breakout or anything that we could expect. I mean, look at how tight of a range we've been over since the beginning of really the mid part of August, okay, after we rallied from our low of 136, and we've been trading in and consolidating in a very tight range. Now looking at commodities, looking at first gold, really unchanged here. It's just trading at 1800 this week, really very tight range, maybe a $20 range. So really, until this actually breaks out from 1827, where it gets kind of interesting or breaks down at 1760, I'm staying put with it. Now looking at oil firming up and showing some steady strength in it. Okay, it hasn't really retraced. Let's look at it better, 1796, and looking at it right now, I mean, it's consolidating towards the upper range, so I would be much more inclined to think there would be a breakout here. But remember, 72.75 is a resistance in it in case we do break out. Now looking at the indices, starting out with the US Dow Jones, look at how weak this is. 34.96 we bounced to, and then gave it all up to 34.624 right now. I mean, we were trading as low as 590-ish level this morning. So it's showing some tremendous weakness, okay? Which means that the markets are maybe topping up, okay? But remember, we have a lot of support here, okay, at this 34,600. So I'd like to see it bounce, okay? It may not, because, I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we've challenged it. This is our third time challenging it, and that third time couldn't sustain itself. Couldn't break above this moving average of 34,943. So I'm more inclined to think that this will break down. Okay, the question is when? If we look at a weekly chart, you know, this is really a very important point for it, because this was previous resistance, okay, in a multi-time frame and a longer time frame analysis. So with that said, if we do break 34,600-ish level with some gusto, we could see it possibly going back to the 34,150 as well. Okay, that would be about a 1,400 point correction in the Dow Jones. Now, looking at the scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but nevertheless, it's still something significant, okay? Especially since we've been here before where we've retraced. Now, if you look at this timeline and this weekly timeline, since the pandemic started, we've doubled in size, okay, from our lows here. So, you know, ultimately speaking, you know, it should have somewhat of a retracement back to the 30,000 mark, okay? That would be a healthy retracement for it to go to. I wonder if the markets are going to give us that, because essential governments are backing these companies so that there's no tremendous frenzy in the markets. Now, as we look at the tech sector, also, we saw a retracement here, but not a major retracement. Okay, when we look at the Nasdaq here, it did retrace. So let's look at the stocks individually. The one stock that is maintaining itself is Microsoft. Look at this, okay? Look at this. It had this gap up and it closed up at 299, which is just shy of about $5 from its all-time highs. So this is not that far off from its all-time highs. Just needs to suspend itself, just needs to really apply itself to the upper range. Now, when we look across the board, when we look at Apple, it sold off quite significantly. And we even broke that potential upwards trend line that we were setting up yesterday. If we look at Alcoa, same thing, did retrace. If we look at JP Morgan, also sold off. Facebook also sold off. Microsoft was the only one that sustained itself. So Microsoft right now is the one that I'm looking to for that confidence, for that follow through, for that strength. And if it falters us, maybe we'll see a further selling. Now, looking lastly at Bitcoin, all right, we did bounce again this morning. Okay, a decent bounce here, okay, to 46,690-ish level right now, okay, which we're looking like we're perking it up. Now, this is resistance-ish area, so we need to see it actually break higher for us to possibly see that it's going to go to 50K again, okay, but ultimately it's still perking up, still pretty strong, and you're looking for that potential move upwards, okay, if it does sustain its momentum. This is Fred Razak, and I wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.